The third part, his character's name and his prayer. Look at his prayer. He says, "Oh, that you would bless me and enlarge my territory. Let your hand be with me and keep me from harm so that I will be free from pain." And then very simply, and God granted his request. It's not a very long prayer, easily memorized, not very many words, but notice what it means. Jabez lived in a time when the people had been sent away. They had been taken captive and held in other countries, and they had been sort of kidnapped as victims of war from the Holy Land, the land that God promised Abraham, the Promised Land. And they had been taken from there and sent all over the world, and when God brought them back many generations later, guess what? The enemies didn't go, "Well, we'll just hold this land for the people of Israel when they come back." No. They said, "That's pretty good land. I think since they've gone on sort of permanent vacation, let's just move in and take over." So as Moses led the people and Joshua led the people to come in and possess the land for the first time, Jabez and his relatives had to come in and repossess the land. And the person who wrote this book wanted to encourage the people to take back what belonged to them, what God had given them. You might say what it means to be an honorable person in the eyes of God is to be in full possession of all he's given you. And it's not just property. It's not just land. It's character. If God's called you to be something, you need to be the best that you can be, that he's made you to be. If he's given you a great mind, you should be in full possession of your mind. If God's made you a great student, you should maintain your grades and your studies. If God's made you a great athlete, you need to do it right and be in full possession of all the gifts God's given you. If God's made you or will make you a great wife, husband, whatever, and have a great family, you be a great father and a great mother. You be in full possession of all that God has given you. If God should choose to give you wealth, you be in full possession of your wealth. Don't squander it. Don't give it away. Don't waste it. Don't waste your life and your honor. That's what it means when he says, "Enlarge my territory. Help me to take possession of all that you promised my forefather Abraham. Help me to be in full possession of it all. And let your hand be with me." He knew that he couldn't accomplish what God wanted him to accomplish on his own. He couldn't accomplish it by his own strength. He needed providence. He needed God's hand to help him because he had been marked by another hand, by his mother's hand, who said, "Pain. You were born to cause pain." You guys know what sticks and stones will do. But I'm here to tell you that it's a lie. Names will hurt you. Names will kill you. Names will follow you and follow you and follow you. I can rarely remember spankings that I got or other things that happened to me that my parents disciplined me with later on in high school, taking away privileges or whatever. But let me tell you what I do remember. I do remember relatives who said things to me that insulted me, that hurt me, that I can still remember, that come to haunt me like demons in the night. I can remember people who told me, "You're going to be a failure, you're going to grow up and you're going to make your wife miserable one day, you're going to be a this, you're going to be a that," and they should have never said it because I was just a little kid and they were supposed to be grown-ups. You know how hard it is to get out from underneath that? Even as an adult, when you do something wrong and it comes back to you and you said, "Man, why did I do that? Oh, right. I remember what my grandmother said. I'm just going to grow up and be dumb." My grandmother told me that. If I didn't do what she liked for me to do, in the time frame she gave me to do it, she started insulting me and calling me all sorts of racial things based on my mother being Polish. She said, "You're just a dumb Polak like your mother." If you're going to overcome that kind of stuff in your life, you're going to need God's hand to do it because eventually you start to believe it. Jabez knew he needed God's hand in order to get out from underneath the prophecy of his life. You were born to cause pain. And he prayed and asked God to do it, and he did. That's how we know what kind of character he was. God granted his request. You know, you guys pray a lot around here. We hear prayers every Friday morning and Monday morning and Tuesday morning over the loudspeakers. Wouldn't it be nice to know that God was going to answer whatever you prayed? Jabez asked that God would expand his territory, that he would give him more, and it says God did. But let me tell you why. Let me give you a principle that explains why. Our prayers are a direct reflection of our character. Meaning, we may need to ask God to change us before we ask God to bless us. Jabez was more honorable than his brothers, so he prayed an honorable prayer. If you're a dishonorable person, guess what kind of prayers you're going to pray? Dishonorable. If you're a liar, guess what kind of prayers you're going to pray? Lies. Don't believe me? Get to know some of the people in your church. You can get to know them by listening to them pray. And you can judge for yourselves. Around the adults you know and around the kids you know, are they praying what they really are, or are they pretending because they think God doesn't know any different? You can tell. What kind of prayers do you pray? What kind of character do you have? Do your prayers reflect who you really are? Because God sees your heart and he knows the difference. Jabez was more honorable, so God granted his request. And God always establishes the character of his people through their prayers.